to stand up here and to be surrounded by these two and to be with all of you leading, with Joyce and with all of you, is so deeply moving for me. A colleague this week said to me, "Wow, Kleinbaum, it's your final Rosh Hashanah service. You could finally say exactly what you want to say." And it took me by surprise because I always say exactly what I want to say. And she told me that when it was her last high holiday service, she just laid it all out. I said, I've been doing that for 32 years. So I don't know, I was shocked. So actually, I don't think I'm going to surprise anybody tonight. I am not going to say or tomorrow or during this period of time because I kind of always do that. And that's part of what's been the profound part of our journey together. I once said to somebody many, many years ago, soon after I was first hired at CBST in 1992, they asked me why I was attracted to coming to CBST. I never wanted to be a congregational rabbi. I thought synagogue Judaism was ridiculous. I never wanted to be in a pulpit. I thought, who's going to listen to me talk? I couldn't imagine prayer other than my own very personal prayer, how to create powerful communal prayer. And I couldn't quite figure out what it would do. And then I said to them, the answer was that this community was interested in the same questions I'm interested in. And that was so deeply moving to me from the very beginning. That we didn't always agree on the answers that I had, for sure. And we didn't always agree on how to respond, et cetera, but as a community, we care about the questions. What does it mean to live a meaningful life in a modern world where we're barraged with all different kinds of things? So I have a few things to say tonight. I'm not going to only focus on the fact that I'm leaving. In fact, it's not going to be the focus of the Drashah tonight. On Yom Kippur, I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I am here for another 10 months or so there'll be a lot of time to reflect back, in the spring especially. And I very much want to thank Lisa Kartzman and Eric Rosenbaum, who are leading an effort for us to think about how we'll go through the process in the spring of celebrating our time together and thinking about what it means for all of us that I'll be stepping down from this position. Some say retiring. I'm not sure what that's the correct word. Certainly retiring from this position. But how that means for all of our futures. There's going to be a lot of time that we're going to be thinking about that together. And you're going to hear a lot more from me about what it's all meant to me personally at different moments. So I wanted to start by saying it's very moving to be here with all of you tonight. It's very moving that you're here in this moment of history. It's very moving. I look around the room. I know so many of you so well. And our stories have so joined together that we will forever be connected. And this is not Moses' goodbye, because guess what? He died. So let's be careful about the parallels there. Everybody keeps saying to me, oh, it's like Moses and the final speech. I keep saying, but Moses died. I don't plan on dying right now, and there will be an ongoing relationship. It's going to change, and what it will be in the future will be transformed. But I'm not dying, okay? Right now. So somebody said to me that the perfect sermon for me to give tonight should be entitled, "What Do You Do When the Wheels Come Off?" I can't think of a better title for a Rosh Hashanah sermon. I don't usually give my sermons or my Drashah titles, but I'm going to take that one for tonight. And I just want to tell people a little bit as I set up this drash. You know, this time of year is about facing our mortality, which we, as especially Americans, I find it's very true for Europeans and South Americans and others that I know, facing our mortality as Americans is typically hard to do. In American culture, typically, Hollywood movies, you know, it's always a happy ending. although nobody's writing the movies anymore, and of course I stand with the writers, I stand with the actors. And please God, that strike should come to a good ending soon, and they should get what they deserve. Okay. All right, but here we are in American culture that is afraid of talking about death, what it means for life, and what it means for all of us who are left behind, and for those of us to face our own deaths. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is about facing our mortality. We wear the white, we deck out everything in white, which in Judaism is the color of death. Our shrouds that we're put in when we're put into the casket to be returned to the earth is typically just a very plain white garb. And it's about saying, okay, if we knew that we had a limited amount of time on earth, what would we do with it? Guess what, everybody? We all have a limited time on earth. That is not a chiddush. It's not something new. However, we live sometimes as if there is a forever involved, or as if it's not going to happen. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur try to urge us, nudge us, kind of give us that little uts. Okay, what will you do with the time that you have? How will you treat the people around you? How will you treat yourself? What will you do to treat your body as the sanctuary it is? How will you take the time to be healthy about how you live, deal with addictions and abusive behaviors, both those that we receive and those that we do? How do we change our lives enough? All it takes is 1 degree of change for the long-term vector to be really significant. That's a math reference, by the way. Just want to say. So most of us don't live with the awareness that we're so close all the time, because that would make us crazy and maybe a little hysterical, but some things happen that remind us in ways that actually are there to shake us up. So some of you know this, that every year I go away for a week, hopefully, to do my own personal preparations for the days of awe. It's not about writing the Drashah, it's not about preparing the text, it's about preparing me. I do a lot of studying and praying, and this year I went to the Berkshires, and while I was driving back with my car, which had just had its tires rotated, as I was driving down Route 22 just north of Dover Plains, the front passenger tire flew off the car, up 100 feet into the woods on the side of the road. And I could feel what you can imagine when that happens. The car, the drum of the wheelbase crashed onto Route 22, and I only had 3 tires. What do you do when the wheels come off? So I pulled the car over as best I could. Thank God I did. I was able to do what made it possible for me to be standing here tonight. We came very close to the end of my time at CBST in a very different way. And it was a dead cell zone, of course. For those of you who know Route 22, there are a lot of cell zones that you cannot get answer. It was like the old times. I had to stand on the side of the road with my hazards on, waiting for somebody to stop. Remember those days? No cell phone, can't call anybody? A state trooper stopped, and he was so generous and kind and helpful. And then he got a tow operator to come who was so generous and kind and helpful. Both of them could have accomplished their paid jobs and be done with the situation. But neither of them did that. Both of them went way beyond any expectation of what they had to do as in their jobs, and instead of being minimum in their jobs, they were maximum in their humanity. They were so kind to me standing there in the middle of the road. The tow operator, it's a long story, I won't tell you the whole thing, but we managed to get the car to Dover Plain, not easy, and then he and his wife took me out to dinner. While we were trying to figure out how I would get back from Dover Plain to New York City, Of course, it totally had escaped my mind that Bill Hibscher and Richard Orient have a home very close to there. Why didn't I think of that? But as a result of their kindness, what stands out for me now when I tell or I think about the story of which almost ended my life, or God forbid, I could have killed somebody else, I'm filled with gratitude about the kindness these strangers showed me. I'm filled with incredible awe at the kindness that people who didn't know me showed to me at a moment they could have gotten away with minimum. They did not. And it's a powerful story because for me it shows us over and over again, we can't prevent terrible things from happening to ourselves and to each other. But we could transform the way the story is told, both in our heads, our hearts, and how I even tell the narration itself. The focus for me is now on the kindness of these human beings and not on the trauma of the terror and the tragedy that could have been. Their kindness transformed that story. And I'm happy to say that Brian and Sherry, who had dinner with me and took care of me, are watching tonight on live stream. So I'd like the whole congregation to wave and thank them. They sent me a text today to wish me a Happy New Year. Hayom Harat Olam. We are told that Rosh Hashanah is about the beginning of the creation of the world, where all possibilities exist and where we can imitate God in being creative. We have choices to make all the time. In moments of terror, we can figure out how to be the Mr. Rogers helper, how to be the person that is kind and good, even when we don't have power to change the evil or the horror or the nightmares that exist in the world. We can be the ones who figure out how to change the narrative itself. We can be the ones who are God's hands, who are God's hugs, who are acting in ways that are imitating God's self. The psalm for the day of Rosh Hashanah, and those of you from my Psalms class, I hope you remember this, is Psalm 8, which is recited tomorrow morning on page 216 and 17 of your Machzor. And the reason that's the psalm for Rosh Hashanah is because it celebrates creation. It's a psalm that celebrates the earth. Can you imagine this Jewish New Year's festival is all about celebrating the creation of the earth and therefore our responsibility to it. It's about celebrating the earth with all of its beauty. Ki eresh amecha ma'aseh. When I behold your heavens, the psalm says, which you have wrought, the moon and the stars which you have created, it is a thing of beauty. What are human beings? You have made humanity only slightly less than divine beings and crowned them with your glory and splendor. Many of you might recognize that from Hamlet. Shakespeare also said in quoting Psalm 8, "What a piece of work is man. How noble in reason and how infinite in faculty. In form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel," Shakespeare said. In apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, how like an angel. We human beings have the ability to act like angels. We have the ability to act in the most evil ways as well. Some of us remember after the 9/11 terror attack, the intense kindness that exploded in New York City in those days and weeks following the attack. The kindness on the street of every vendor, every restaurant, putting food out in the street, of people coming from all over the country to work on that mound and help recover, and the intense kindness that was in response to the intense terror. That is what we have control over. Maseh Bereshit, the creation of Bereshit, that is the central theme of Rosh Hashanah. And many people ask, and you probably, if you weren't napping, have heard some of my drashot, where I talk about it's a bit strange that our Torah readings for Rosh Hashanah are actually not about creation story, and the Reform movement, in fact, has replaced some of the Torah readings with the Torah reading of the creation story. It makes a lot more sense. But we read these stories, and I'm going to be talking about one of them tomorrow, about humanity in all of our foibles. Humanity that's full of jealousy and anger and hatred. Jealousy that makes humanity sometimes behave very badly. Because guess what? That's part of creation too. That's a part of the creative universe, is all of who we are. And how we take those parts of ourselves that are not the best angelic, in Shakespeare's language, parts of humanity. And we are partners with the one who created us, whether or not you believe in God. It is up to us to create each of ourselves to be the best person we can be. Imagine that. That's our job. We were not born as angels with nothing to do. Let's face it. I know a lot of you know me, and we're not angels. Vayhi or. On the first day of creation, it said, let there be light. By the way, it's the Masonic theme also. When you came in, if you came in through 23rd Street, there is in the floor, let there be light. It's very appropriate. Let there be light, it says at the very beginning. But the sun wasn't created for another 36 hours. According to the creation story, the sun is created in the beginning of the third day. So what is the light that exists from the first day if the sun wasn't created until the third day? The rabbis were very troubled by that, by the way, because guess what? Science means something to Jews. We actually care about science because we think God created the science that we live in, right? It's normal. All right, no comment there. So there's a great midrash which says, the light which the Holy One created on the first day made it possible for humanity, Adam and Chava, to see from one end of the world to the other, or from one end of a year to another. When the Holy One saw the evil generations of the people who were acting in ways of total terror and evil, God decided to hide the light from the evil in the world. Because God was not sure how evil people would deal with the powerful light that you could see through to the end of a year or to around the world. And we're told that God put this light away for people who are trying to be righteous to find in future generations. For people who are troubled and confused and want to figure out what to do and how to do it and how to be the kindness in the world that transforms the story, the light is sitting there waiting for us. One of the rabbis teach that the 36 candles of Hanukkah actually parallel the 36 hours for which that original primordial light the primordial light was shown before it was hidden away. So for 36 hours, this light was shown, and then it was hidden away. That light is called in our tradition, or Haganuz, the hidden light. And our tradition tells us that that light is waiting for each of us to find it. When we feel the most broken, the most full of despair, the most full of fear, that light is there. Imagine that it is up to us to find that light and to spread it. Imagine that it's there waiting for us. Can you think of that concept? All we have to do is try to be righteous, to try and with our intention, try and create light in the world. What are we as a community facing this year? It's complicated. It's complicated for me, it's complicated for you, and we need this light. We need to hold the light for each other. And how do we find that light? Well, somebody in my class on Wednesday night reminded me of the great Leonard Cohen song, The Anthem. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. and that's how the light gets in. Let us celebrate the cracks that are in all of us. And instead of only seeing the damaged parts of us, know that the light itself will come through those cracks, that those lights in us will come through our brokenness and help us be the people for whom kindness becomes our response to terror or to anxiety or to fear, that each of us can become the reason that other people will believe in the goodness of humanity. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in.
The birds they sing at the break of day. Start again, I heard them say. Don't dwell on what has passed away or what is yet to be. Yeah, the wars, they will be fought again. The holy dove, she will be caught again. Bought and sold and bought again. The dove is never free.
Ring the bells that still can ring.
Ring the bells that still can ring.
Forget your perfect offering.
Forget your perfect offering.
There is a crack in everything.
A crack in everything.
That's how the light gets in.
How the light gets in. We asked for signs. The signs were sent. The birth betrayed, the marriage spent. Yeah, the widowhood of every government, signs for all to see. I can't run no more with that lawless crowd, while the killers in high places say their prayers out loud. But they've summoned a thundercloud. They're going to hear from me. Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in. That's how the light gets in.
One thing I ask, to live in the presence of God every day of my life so that the light can get in. Please, God, be with us one day. Help us to live in your presence, to have the joy of doing what we can to bring the light wherever we go, to know how small it is in each of us. It lights and connects with our neighbor.